Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, May 22nd, 2023, 10 a.m. Central. We're soon thereafter in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today we're going to take another look at some of the miniatures that I'm putting together for a lizard folk army, I guess. Army-ish. Just a pile of lizard folk, really. You're going to use them in D&D. I'll use them for some skirmish wargaming and perhaps some larger scale wargaming. But the ones I'm looking at today are just a couple to round out with some leader figures, a couple of lizard folk packs from WizKids Nolzur's line. They are pre-primed, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But you get two to a pack, and they're usually about $5, $6 maybe for two, so reasonable cost. They are plastic though. All of the Reaper ones, or I was showing last week, were all metal, which I often prefer, but not necessarily. I mean, it really depends on what the miniatures are, right? Because you want to go with what works for your table and for your particular army. So what do we got going here? You know what? I think if we switch over to this, we can have a look. Yes, we are indeed looking into the past. That's me from a recording from before when I was showing off some miniatures. Let's take that down. There we go. I was pulling these out, and I've got the sound down over there. Let's make sure it's all the way down. There we go. And we get a closer, clearer view of these if I use this recording I made before. It's not super long, but it does give me a chance also to show the scale compared to the Metal Reaper miniatures. They're roughly the same. There's a lot of similarity. There's a little more in the way of head comb or adornment on the Nolzur's minis. A bit more detail in what they're wearing, but if they're going to stand out as leader figures, it's not really a problem. What you're looking at there is the lizard folk shaman. He has a bit of magic happening in his hand, and he's carrying around a staff with what appear to be horns or antlers from some sort of creature. Below that is just what they call a lizard folk. They don't give it a class or anything. But he's a spear and shield carrier, and he's obviously meant to be a pretty tough guy to be packaged with the shaman. And that works out well. They will. The problem I find sometimes with the Nolzur's miniatures, they're pre-primed, which is good. I mean, if you wanted to just paint them straight out of the box, that's fantastic. But I often see some mold lines on them, which require some filing or some work with an X-Acto knife. And that's problematic with a pre-primed trigger because obviously once you work on it with a knife or a file, suddenly you have to take off some of the priming. So you have to add some fresh prime in those areas. The thing I find to do then is just to dab it with some brush on primer in the areas that you worked over. And that way you're not respraying the entire thing and losing a whole bunch of detail, which these figures are known for. Pretty good amount of detail. So they have those bases, those extra black bases. Although if I set up the others with square bases, which I may do, then I will use square bases under these as well. It won't matter that they come on a little plastic base attached to their foot and then add on. It'll just make them more prominent. They're about the same size, maybe a touch smaller scale-wise than the Reaper figures. So that's not really a problem. That's a knife, and that's good. Anyway, that is a look at those. The other two were a barbarian and a lizardfolk cleric. The cleric again showing off some magic in his hands. He's the lower figure in this package. The upper figure, a lizardfolk barbarian. Let's see if I can zero in on the name at least. So he's got a sort of toothy sword, right? Serrated sword, and a shield, also with spikes around the outside. It it's only 4 figures, but they add some variety to the figures in the army themselves. There's so much with the Reaper figures, obviously, for the main troops are going to be grouped, a bunch of archers, mostly two poses, bunch of spearmen, 2 poses, swordsmen, same thing. So the main body of troops will all be similar, but at least these, beyond the command unit that I showed off last week, will be some individual leaders, sergeants maybe, if you will, or casters, shamans, cleric, which we can call a shaman as well, I suppose. Um, and it all works to help create some depth to the units, add them in as leaders for individual groupings, and you're all set to go. So that was just a quick look. I wanted to talk about those separately from the Reaper figures. This lets us wrap up those figures. The rest of it, when I revisit this in a part 3 somewhere down the line, it will be in regard to some of the painting and stuff, and we'll get more in depth in that regard as well. So I want to thank you very much for joining us today on the OK Grognard Show to talk about the Lizardfolk miniatures for use in 1E AD&D and wargaming. Nice work by Dean Spencer there. Oops, we're in the wrong spot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this off. When you don't set things up correctly in the first place, you know you're in trouble, right? We'll just fix that real quick and pop that over there. You think after doing over 400 shows, I'd have some of this down by now, right? There we go. But I guess that's just not the case. In any event, thank you very much for joining us today. Show streams live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central, and then it's archived on YouTube. Follow it. Join in the conversation if you feel like it. Catching up on the archives on YouTube, then by all means, subscribe and click the little buzzer so that you can check out new episodes as they are uploaded, and to be very much appreciated. Give us a thumbs up on ones you like and enjoy. Thanks to our Patreon supporters, Tom Tellis of Red Dragon Games, Carlos Lysing, Castle Entertainment, Heath Farndon of the Andy Padilla and D20, Dave O'Brien of Four Quacks Games, and as always, Shane Bradley, DM Extraordinaire. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Thank you, and bye-bye.